Maine is now the second state to rule former President Donald Trump cannot appear on its primary ballot, citing the 14th Amendment's clause against insurrectionists holding office. Trump's legal team says they plan to appeal this ruling. His campaign calling Maine's Secretary of State who made this decision a, quote, hyper-partisan Biden-supporting Democrat. Colorado's Supreme Court also ruled against the former president's eligibility just last week, but he's back on the ballot for now as this appeal plays out. Meanwhile, other states, including California, have rejected efforts to take Trump off the ballot. CBS News campaign reporter and attorney Katrina Kaufman is following this story for us. Katrina, thanks for helping us break all this down. Before we get into it, though, let's play some of what Maine's Secretary of State said yesterday.
I'm mindful that no Secretary of State has ever deprived a candidate of ballot access under Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, but no presidential candidate has ever engaged in an insurrection. My job was to evaluate the facts presented at the hearing, the evidence that was produced, and the record created in that proceeding, and to evaluate that and make a ruling, which is what I did.
So, Katrina, what was different about this decision compared to some of the other states' challenges?
Yeah, well, thanks so much for having me. I think one thing that's really unique to point out about Maine is that it was the Secretary of State's obligation to weigh this ruling. When voters petitioned her with a challenge for a candidate's qualifications, she was required under Maine law to hold a hearing and then to also very quickly issue a ruling. So, in response to these calls of biases, she really emphasized that to me, that she was following the rule of the law in Maine, and then that she made this decision by evaluating the U.S. Constitution and the Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. And as you said, she found that Trump engaged in insurrection, and therefore that disqualified him from the presidency in her eyes.
And we also know, Katrina, Trump is back on the ballot in Colorado after Republicans there appealed the state's Supreme Court decision. So how might all of this end up at the nation's highest court?
Yeah. So when the Colorado Supreme Court made their decision, they stayed it till January 4th, giving Trump an opportunity to appeal, and we expect him to appeal. But now the Colorado Republican Party has gone ahead and done that. So that leaves Trump on the primary ballot for now. And we're waiting to see what the Supreme Court is going to do. Both parties have asked them to act quickly. I think there's a real gravity to this situation. The more disqualifications we're seeing, there's now 2 of those, and challenges which have happened in about 30 states now, the more it shows that we really need these 9 justices to weigh in on this issue with a unified ruling.
And finally, Trump was left on the ballot in California. What happened there in that case? And are there other states that we should be keeping a close eye on?
So interestingly, hours after Bellows, the Secretary of State in Maine, issued her ruling, the Secretary of State in California released a list of candidates who will be on the presidential primary ballot. And Trump was on that list. Right after the Colorado ruling, the Lieutenant Governor of California had written a letter to her asking her to explore all legal avenues to get Trump off the ballot. But, it's very different in California and Maine. It's not clear whether she actually has the right to do that unilaterally. And also, Governor Gavin Newsom spoke out, and he's called this a political distraction. He says in California, we should really seek candidates in the polls. So California went a very different way. I'm also watching Wisconsin right now. I saw there might be a challenge filed there, and there's also a case pending before the Oregon Supreme Court.
Okay, lots to follow here. Katrina Kaufman, thanks so much.